Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about how to make your sales process a true machine that runs consistently. So many interior designers are reinventing the wheel every time a lead comes through, or simply spending a lot of man hours on getting these people through their branded experience and getting them to a paid client. And we want to create this as a machine that takes as little time from you as possible and happens as consistently as possible so that every lead is educated the same way.
Yeah, this is getting your marketing deliverables to match and enhance the conversation you're having with clients. Mm-hmm. So it all starts with a conversation, but it really should be that systematic machine. You're saying the same things roughly every single time, and you know that there is an information deliverable getting sent out after that conversation to reiterate what's being said and support you in pushing you to the next step with the client.
Yeah. So I think that there's really a lot of different ways that people want to approach this. Many people are either very hesitant about automation. They feel like it takes control away from this process, or they're just not there yet. They're like, I have the time. My lead flow isn't full enough to really be worth that. Okay. We can still make a machine out of a very manual process. Then I'd say there's kind of those hybrid folks. They want some limited automation to take some of the time out of the process, but they're not ready or even wanting a full-blown automated journey. Great. That's a strength too. And then there's those people who are maybe their lead flow is so heavy, or they just know about themselves that they're not going to be pushing this stuff manually in a consistent way. And they're really wanting to take full automation. All three of those things can still be a machine. So we are not advocating here for a fully automated process if that's not going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, I think you're just naturally going to evolve. If you have no consistent deliverables and your conversation hasn't been consistent, then you're going to start very simply with having 3 email templates, 2 informational documents, and 2 questionnaires that you yourself are manually going to send out after you have your conversations. Mm-hmm. And I nearly think it's important that you do that and not skip steps and jump to a fully enhanced, full-blown automation, because you first have to embody that, fully understand, what's going out so that you can also receive client feedback throughout that process and make adjustments from there.
I would totally agree. Before you go into automating these email templates, working on kind of an option A, option B, like you'll naturally over time figure out what feels right, figure out what clients respond to. And then when you have that education of what's really going to work, we set it in place through automation further down the line. But no matter how you're doing this, we really want this to become a machine. And interestingly enough, I think some people will be confused by what I'm going to say is the very first step, but actually your website contact form is the first asset you're going to create in any of this. Don't even write a freaking email template until you've thought about your website contact form, because I have clients all the time. I hear designers all the time say, well, sometimes they come through my email because it's a referral. Sometimes, I get an Instagram DM. Every once in a while, they call from my business, Google my business. What? No. Yes, true. We want all those leads. We want all those avenues at the top of the funnel. What I want us working towards is the very first response from any of those being, here's my website /contact, fill out the form there in order to inquire. However, your language. Consistency. When you're getting that referral from your email, are you always remembering to ask the important questions about budget or whatever it is that you've considered as being very, very important for your intake form on your website? Every single client should go through that way. And if you already feel like I'm challenging you on this episode, great. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So first asset is the short form questionnaire, right? And it should be a consistent way that people are filling that out. Website is usually the go-to. And, maybe a tiny bit of automation in your scheduling there, right? To kind of streamline with a simple follow-up.
Just an automated email that says, thank you so much for reaching out. I'll call you within 24 business hours, whatever that looks like for you. Now, big hot question that I get about the website contact form is how detailed should it be? And on the marketing side of things, I'll kind of give you the pros and cons because there's no right or wrong answer. It's what's right for you and your business. On the marketing side of things, first name, last name, email, phone number is the easiest thing for someone to fill out. You are removing all obstacles from someone just giving you their email, which means they get added to your CRM. They're in your funnel now. Like if you are not in such a place where you're so busy that you need to really, really qualify a lead, there's a huge benefit to just getting these emails, getting them in your funnel, getting them in your email newsletter, whatever that looks like for your marketing efforts. On the other hand, many designers don't have time to take a 30-minute discovery call if they don't at least know that this client is in this zip code, in their service area with a minimum budget of XYZ and wanting to know a little bit about the space. So how detailed do you want to make that contact form on a scale of truly just your contact information to more of a short questionnaire is really going to depend where on that spectrum you are of how much the email is simply valuable to you versus how qualified you need that lead to be before you can take your time for that discovery call. So that's one kind of workshop for yourself right there.
There's something I want to say because you said CRM and talking about the email and how valuable that is. So ultimately, if you're listening at the minimum, bare minimum, you have a website, you have a contact submission form where they can either email you to schedule the call or they can automate that scheduling. There's also some type of short form questionnaire, whether it's very simple to get their information or you're pre-vetting that lead.
Mm-hmm.
The CRM portion of that is another outside piece of technology where you're building your email list. And it is another portion where I feel like it's a miss, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have a CRM. The emails are not collecting. You're not busting out newsletters yet or focusing on an email marketing campaign. It does not mean that you should not have that set up and start collecting.
Amen. Yes. When you launch your newsletter, do you want to launch it to one person? Your mom? Or do you want to launch it to all of these past people that reached out to your business and were interested at one point and could be a very valuable subscriber to you?
100%.
I would recommend the latter.
At a bare minimum, wherever you are on the spectrum of your sales process, all of those things should be happening. And if not, you need to just get on Evelyn's schedule.
Yes,
and
please.
That's a very couple hours exercise to get that integrated and get that communicating. Okay,
yes,
so
totally. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so now this lead is in a consistent way, no matter where they found you, no matter how they got in contact with you, they have come through your contact form and you have the information that you have considered absolutely necessary to take in this client. Now, either manually with an email template that you can copy and paste every time or in an automated fashion, you are sending them the option to schedule the discovery call. A couple different things to consider here. Many people at this point will send some kind of informational welcome packet, a little bit about the business, a little bit more of your portfolio, essentially like a super short, condensed version of the website for someone who just wants to engage with your business again as they're kind of waiting.
Yeah, build authority, get excited about working with you.
Throw some testimonials in there, throw a short, explanation of services in there so you have a shared vocabulary when it comes to the discovery call. Whatever that looks like for you, we have some templates if you need a little bit of a shortcut. And then if you did not ask lots of questions on the discovery, if you decided that you're early on that spectrum, you just want the email, you want that subscriber, now you could send your shorter discovery call prep questionnaire. Some questions about budget. I think that's a really great middle ground for the people who said, I don't want to make it difficult for people to reach out. And I also don't want to have a discovery call if I don't know certain things about this client.
And also I'll say some people can choose to use that questionnaire as a guide on the discovery call. If you want to collect that information, you don't want to send it out, you're not even at that point of being able to do it there, at least have that information prepared because you definitely, that questionnaire gives you all the necessities of profiling where this client falls
20, 30 minutes
spectrum.
goes really fast if you're just collecting information from the client and haven't even been able to then share. And that's what I'll usually, say on the discovery call. It's like, of course, I want to get to know you and more about your project, but I'm also going to now share about the business, my services, and how I can best support you. You're not going to have time for all that if you don't even know this client's relative budget.
Yeah, way better to collect prior.
Totally. Whether you're doing it on the website because you don't even want them if they don't meet those criteria, or probably my recommendation, you're doing that right before the discovery call. It's a little bit of a lead in. Now you've had that discovery call. Also, in creating this process as a machine, if you don't have any kind of script, agenda, guidepost, if I needed to jump in and take a discovery call for you, what could you send me? If you don't have anything like that, that just leads you through that conversation, those main talking points in doing this exercise of creating this machine of your sales process, that should definitely be part of it.
Yeah. I always say this is a wireframe, bullet points that guide you through the conversation. Did we do that on another podcast, Evelyn? I feel like there is a podcast that we recorded those conversations, the closing call wireframe.
Yeah, go back and listen to kind of our discussion of how to close jobs. We didn't go through the discovery call so much. I feel designers, you guys are really good at these. Talking about, getting people excited isn't the problem. But how to close jobs talks about that client intake. Going through what we call the 2-part consultation, which is the design meeting and then the closing call. So super important, non-negotiable as far as we see it. So go back to that one and we'll stay focused here.
Yeah.
So now you've had that discovery call. And usually I would say, especially when we're automating and now this isn't time required on your plate, every meeting should really have a follow-up. Not just a thank you so much for your time today, but what is that next step? What is that informational document that you can send that better reiterates, what was just talked about. So in this wireframe journey too, it's always like what to send before the meeting. What is that meeting? What needs to be sent after that meeting? If you're kind of thinking about it in that way, whether you're going to be sending it manually and you're just documenting it for yourself, whether it's something that Calendly or Dubsado is going to be sending for you, that's the mental exercise to go through.
Yeah. Or if you're it's simple, right? You don't have any information, right? The email template you need to have reiterates what they are paying for, right? This is what's super important because I've heard of people like clients having a falsified expectation of what's included in the intake. So your words are matched what's in writing. Here's what that intake is inclusive of. It reiterates the information and eventually, there's something to pay, right? There would always be an invoice that's sent after, whether it's automated or not. And you're following up on that. So
some questions that happen here, same thing, depending on your process, how you want it to run. Do you want to allow the client to book and pay in the same step? Using something like Dubsado or Calendly, we can automate all of that so it's very clean for the client. If you're doing this manually, there becomes a few more questions. Sometimes designers say, well, on the discovery call, I allow them to pick their date and time. Now I'm scheduling that for them and then sending the invoice. Okay, work that into your process. Make sure your email templates feel clean and clear for the client throughout that. Many times designers don't want to allow them to reserve a date and time until they've paid. So you're sending the invoice and your emails need to further clarify what's that timing for you to reach back out and get them scheduled. Is it you or is it a team member? Create this as a machine and start to think through that process really in detail in terms of what those steps are, what the technology is, what the order is. You'll feel good for knowing all of that.
Yeah. And a biggest part, like if you're in that hybrid, we didn't really kind of profile. So at the beginning, right, you might not have anything. Of course, you're going to need to create a very simple version of this. You have the time in your business. You're still building your lead flow. That's you. In the middle of this, you're starting to get busy, right? So everyone needs the first part of the conversation from the website and the CRM and get it scheduled. What starts to follow after this, right, other than the simple follow-up of an email and an informational deliverable, is when do I automate? And when you start to get busy, typically, even if you can get on my schedule pretty quickly, my follow-up starts to have a drop because I'm busy. And honestly, at this point in the business, you're likely saying, because I did, like, well, if they want my service, like, I don't need to be following up with them. They'll follow up with me. Wrong.
I hear it all the time.
Very wrong way of doing sales, like,
Say
but
wrong
I don't know
again.
why. Wrong. It's just wrong. But I don't know why. I remember vividly having this mentality. It was so crazy, like I did my job. I sent out the thing, like, you'll come back when you're ready. not the case, right? You want to be following up, of course, and this
How
is
many
where
times has the right thing
automation.
landed in your inbox just like at the right time when you had a moment to think about it again? You're like, oh, yeah, I will schedule that now. Like the follow up, it is a timing game and you can't expect your one timing to be just right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the follow up, super important. That's what started to entice me personally into technology that could assist in that. So the
Mhm.
reason I'm bringing this up is if that's you and things are dropping, that means that technology could not only, send out that information for the initial intake to click pay and schedule, or just pay and receive an email that they're going to get manually scheduled. It would follow up with them and say, okay, in 3 days or 5 days, if that client did not click pay and schedule or one of all of those actions,
Mhm.
then send this email.
Yep.
And 2 days later, send this email. And
Yep.
3 days later, you know what? Why don't you have it email me or
To
my
pick up the
admin
phone and
assistant
call, put the
to
phone
check
number right
in?
there in the body of
Right,
the email. So it's as easy for me as humanly freaking possible. Yes.
right.
And I think that that's a really great point, Shay, because so many people think of automation and like go white knuckle on it because it feels
Yeah,
like everything's going to be outside of your control. Automation doesn't just mean even sending anything to the client. It
right.
could just be your internal reminders and keeping
Yep.
you or your team on track within this process too. We do that all the time. The number of zaps I have set up to simply just like Slack me when I know I need to do
Yeah.
something, or someone on our team can be super helpful in that middle ground, that hybrid person that you were talking
Yeah.
about.
Starting to get busy. You're starting to need to integrate assistance. That means you're starting to have to lead more, delegate more. All these things take time. And you're only a single human, natural for things to slip. And this is where technology can start, that initial investment can pay off down the road of not having an administrative assistant to pay out to support it, or your time, which is way more valuable in sending these deliverables out.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of challenge that midpoint, if you're in the middle, you can still get clients on your books pretty timely, but you're just keeping on top of treading the water, as they say, and those
Hmm.
follow-ups are falling off and you're feeling a little disorganized. This can definitely help ground you, even if it's still that simple process where you're
Yeah.
only sending out one piece of educational information, after the conversation. Okay.
Yep.
So that's like
Absolutely.
hybrid, right?
Yeah,
So
that's hybrid. So now you've had your discovery call. You have thought through the payment scheduling process, whatever that's going to look like for you for the client intake, starting with that first design consultation. Again, go back and listen. If you're like, intake, nah, I just do a design consult, please go listen to that episode and
yeah,
just let us
please.
try and convince you.
Yeah.
But okay, we're starting with that design consultation. And now this is often where we would recommend sending out the longer form questionnaire.
Yeah.
Some designers want to have the consultation first and send a much larger questionnaire when the project opens. It depends on what you're going to need to have your most effective design meeting. We're not going to, fix anything that isn't broken inside of your business, but many times at this part of this wireframe process, another questionnaire is going out in preparation for the design meeting.
Yeah, to me, this is like where you get that pre-prep before your mood board presentation. And if you don't have anything, the easiest thing you can just ask a client to do is send you a minimum of 5 photos that they are attracted to, that they love, and use that as a tool during your intake to kind of draw out the conversation so that your mood board presentation becomes a refinement.
I
Of course,
absolutely love it when we don't talk about it in advance and we say the exact same thing. Feels so good.
yeah.
But I was exactly going to say that. Even if you don't have a full-fledged questionnaire at this point, show me some photos of the existing space. Link or attach some inspiration images is still a great preparation for a design meeting. That also means your client is engaged.
Yeah.
You've asked them to go spend a few minutes and prepare for this. And that leads to a better conversation too, just in making sure that the client's on board.
I'm going to say something I'm itching to say. A
Okay.
picture's worth 1,000 words. So often clients have a very hard time crafting words around this. That's why they're hiring you. So also
Mhm.
at the same time, you want to make this Not a crazy elaborate questionnaire that they struggle to answer. Pictures are great even if your questionnaire has a bit like of a pictorial,
Yep.
like A to
Imagery.
D,
Yeah.
pick an option type of a thing. And you have a more elaborate questionnaire perhaps that you use again as a tool to guide you through the conversation. And I just want to call out here that if you are starting to delegate or you have a team, that intake, you filling out a very detailed intake is going to support your team in understanding everything you have talked about with the client.
Yeah.
And if you're very busy, it's very easy to forget all the details, right? So that those notes are what you're going to live by and how your team is also going to support you. So just throwing that out there as well. 2 versions are almost necessary, client facing and the more enhanced version behind the scenes that you're going to fill out and automatically triggers that next step in your process. If you do have support, someone will be able to jump in immediately after that meeting and start pricing the job.
Yeah. Another thing, this was a bit unique, I'd say. One that I worked on with a client recently was I don't want to ask my clients time. I don't want to send a questionnaire before, but they created a questionnaire that was simply what they were going to go through in the design meeting with the client. So it was a visual questionnaire to actually complete on site. And that was one we hadn't worked on before that I thought was a really unique spin on what the questionnaire may be. So another thought to sprinkle in for you.
I think this is a very important aspect for a designer to truly decide what they need to draw out of the client during the meeting, like kind of an undervalued aspect. But if you can systematize that process for yourself and get very clear, you're getting yourself way ahead of hitting that mark. That mood board presentation is a true refinement of everything that client said in that meeting. And you're not needing to do a little bit of revision in that conceptual phase if sometimes you're seeking delays with the client feeling like they need some more imagery to get on the same page before you leap into the design. So just want to say that there, like you really have to think through for what you need and what that process is for you to stay committed to archiving that information consistently.
Yep. Okay, so now you've had your design consultation.
Yep.
Following that, these steps that we need to think through, depending on where you are on the spectrum, some questions to think through here. We are going to talk about this as if you're doing the client intake with the 2-part, with the closing call. Some designers want at that design consultation to select the date and time of the closing call, to go ahead and have it on the board as a deadline, to have spoken about it in person with the client. So now the follow-up behind the scenes is to go and actually get that scheduled. Some designers want to have the time to create the pricing, to go through and complete their pricing tool, to be ready for that review meeting, and then to schedule the closing call. So another thing to think through there, is that going to be the manual, like when I know I'm ready, I'll reach back out. In that case, this is kind of a dead zone for the client. They're excited. They've had this design meeting. This is a great time to implement a couple follow-ups with some little journey there. If they're not going to hear from you until that proposal's ready, something to consider.
A very simple thing, right? And I feel like is kind of known in the industry is like, this is where that investment guide, quote unquote, gets spit out, right? Your good, better, best pricing. Ultimately, the psychology of this sale, and when I talk to people, is in the beginning, we're getting them prepped for design to understand your design services. That's what this welcome journey is about, to get them excited. After we get them excited, we need to change their brains to start thinking about money and budget. And we need to educate them on those aspects of the sale, right? So what is negotiable in your services? It's important to me that they understand that they control the furnishing budget. That's where a good, better, best kind of educational document might come out. And I want them to know, I think that should be prepared in an itemized list. It's suggested, it's not firm, of course, that happens in the conceptual phase, but I want them to have that understanding that we're going to be seeing these numbers on the call together. This is a conversation. You're in control of these numbers. You're not in control of the design fees, but these are the levels or negotiables inside the services that we can discuss. And I want them prepared that I'm going to give them kind of like the full level of the service and we can, discuss from that point. So that's the important kind of education that I want them prepared for, so that they're also arriving to the call totally clear on what we're going to talk about. And I also want them clear, like, if you're not providing any visuals, right, you're kind of restating what is being provided to them, that this is not a design-centered call. So there's no expectation of receiving something.
Totally. One thing too that I think sometimes investment guides miss, the good, better, best, I do think is great. I'm not saying remove that, but just the shared language of what goes into their budget, because clients have their all-in number in mind.
Yeah.
They can't be expected to know the difference between design fees and furnishing. Do they think they're coming to this call and going to understand, labor if there's a renovation involved? Like, just that shared vocabulary of what numbers you will be presenting and what might not be known at this point can be very helpful too, because if a client's going, oh yeah, and this is my all-in number, perfect. We don't want any miscommunications or misaligned expectations down the road.
And nearly that good, better, best, that should be a conversation at the design consult. Like, you should not be walking away without having that. And it could be done simply. Like, where do you typically shop? Are you looking to go beyond that level and elevate? Are you wanting me to put a budget together based off of the home's value, and what it deserves? You do have to profile that, right? So you can put together a suggested furnishing list with some perspective of the situation. But again, what you say is then reiterated through text and sent out, right? The marketing assets technically aren't necessary.
Right.
Your words and your delivery is the sale. It's getting reinforced after the fact. So we should be having those conversations at that site, and this information should be re-educating on a deeper level, right?
Yep. You want to know that you're going to have the most effective meeting possible, because nothing that you're saying is a surprise. That's what this machine gives to you.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so now you have scheduled this closing call, no matter how on that spectrum in terms of timing and automation you want that to be. You have sent out this preparatory information to make sure that the client's really ready to talk about budget in an informed way. Now you've held this closing call. There either are or are not revisions to the pricing that you've proposed to the contract that you have ready. And now you are really ready to have them sign on the line. And in creating this as such a streamlined machine, hopefully you have made this as clear as possible for the client. Your communication has been clear and consistent. They know they can rely on you. There's been no dead zones where they're like, she remembers me, right? You have also for yourself made sure that all the expectations that were super important to you, that every client you bring on should know, have been not only said, but then restated. And you have hopefully spent a minimal amount of your valuable time bringing this client through this, either because it was as simple as copy and paste, or because it was running independently as possible through automation without you. No matter where you are on this spectrum of how involved you want to be, those three goals should be hit. And you will now start to feel like the sales process is something that you can count on to happen consistently.
And ultimately, too, there can be another little deliverable other than, of course, the contract that goes out. Like, some people I know have done like FAQs, that can just kind of, again, reiterate probably already, or should be hopefully already, what you covered in that closing call. Like, when do you get on schedule typically? What do I need to do to get my project started? Simple things can go after.
Totally.
So that's that, like, simple wireframe, I'd say, where you have 2 to 3 informational deliverables going out. You're doing this manually. I think we did a good job kind of saying, if you're hybrid, all those things you could do to support you. Now I just want to take it home and talk about, like, you're a very, 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 very busy business owner. You are definitely delegating and have a lot on your plate. And as a result, your busy schedule means that clients aren't getting on your schedule for that initial first meeting of the consult for a couple weeks, maybe 1 to 2 weeks. And it's taking you another possible 1 to 2 weeks to put together the deal and meet with them again. If that's you, then what automation can do is really create a customer journey that feeds the noise, where you can have those 2 weeks. You're not going to have clients emailing you questioning what's going on. And ultimately, you're taking the same information you've already worked on. And instead of having a 8 to 12 page packet of information, you are breaking that information apart into sometimes what I feel is more digestible to the consumer, because now you're just breaking this into kind of like a 1-page send. So you're feeding them little bits of information, because let's be real, how many people are reading every single word in a 12-page packet? Like, odds are, hopefully your most valuable information's up at the top, because a lot of people are likely scanning through the rest of it. So I think that it creates the experience. They actually absorb the information. They feel they're in communication with you, even though that process is much longer and it's buying you time. You look professional, you look good, you're educating that client. And I would say that's like the highest level, right, Ev? Would you agree?
At
of
that
an
level
automated
too,
process?
another benefit that comes with that automated journey is when you have a team and different things and to-dos need to be assigned to different people. You need different reminders going out to different people. That will always be another job until technology is doing it for you. So another thing to consider, if that is you on that farther side of the spectrum, those are some of the benefits that come along with that.
Definitely. Putting support into your sales process, that definitely no-brainer,
Yeah.
So I think those are all 3 levels, though.
Yeah, me too.
Simple,
So
hybrid, super
fully automated.
extreme, full automation, really creating the journey. And one more thing I'd say in that highest level is you can start then crafting different tags of services. I might not be saying it right, Ev, like in terms of tag, but workflows, you can have different types of services. If you have remodels, you have new builds, you have furnishings, you have I don't know, your kitchen cabinet sales, whatever it is. That's where also, you're getting into a larger company set. And this is genuinely creating that machine in the sales process.
Yeah, I mean, you could have, let's say on that website contact form, if they answer that their budget is between X and Y, send them to this workflow for this particular service offering. If they say they're working on a kitchen, then their welcome packet needs, we can totally go down the rabbit hole of all the different ways. I totally get off on this stuff. Let's work on it together. But hopefully this wireframe helped you for your own self identify kind of where you are on that spectrum of totally manual to totally automated, so that you can make your decisions accordingly, and also helps you think through the wireframe of your own sales process to determine if there are any gaps, so that you can really create this machine to run either with you or for you. Both are valuable.
Yeah. Key takeaway: be consistent. Whatever you decide, just be consistent. And at a minimum, this means that you need email templates, questionnaires, and 2 informational documents. At minimum, that's what we're looking to create. However far you want to take that to your heart's desire, you can, but consistency. Just be consistent.
Okay, so that's your homework for today. Go, go, go. Or come to us if you need support. That's what we're here for.
As we wrap up today's episode, let's get real about what it means to have a sales process that actually works for you instead of you constantly working for it. The chaos of reinventing the wheel every single time a lead comes through, that needs to stop today. Your sales process should be a machine that runs consistently, whether you're manually sending those emails or letting an automation process handle it for you. And here's what changes everything. When you finally commit to consistency, your clients can feel it. They trust you more. They close faster, and you stop hemorrhaging leads because you forgot to follow up or sent mixed messages.
Let's be honest. If you think your leads are just going to magically come back when they're ready without any follow-up from you, you're wrong. Your timing is not their timing. The follow-up is not annoying, it's professional, and it's strategic. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, if they really wanted to work with me, they'd reach out. You are leaving money on the table and blaming the client for your lack of systems. Sorry.
So here's your challenge for this episode. Create your sales machine wireframe this week. Map out every single step from website contact form to signed contract. What's being sent before each meeting? What's being sent after? What are your email templates? What are your informational documents? And at the bare minimum, you need 3 email templates, 2 informational documents, 2 questionnaires, and a comprehensive contract. If you don't have those, you are not running a professional sales process. You're winging it. And winging it means inconsistent results, confused clients, and deals that fall through the cracks.
And if you're at that stage where your lead flow is heavy, where clients are waiting a week or 2 just to get on your calendar, and you're still manually trying to keep up with follow-ups, you need automation. Not because you're lazy, but because your time is too valuable to be spent on copy-pasting the same email 12 times a day. Technology can create that branded customer journey, keep your clients engaged during those dead zones, and ensure that nothing falls through the cracks while you're focused on the high-level strategic work that only you can do.
So when you're ready to stop losing leads to inconsistent follow-up and start building a sales process that actually converts with confidence, schedule a free call with us at fordesignerbusiness.com or click the link in the show notes. We specialize in helping designers at every level of the spectrum, from totally manual to fully automated. Create a sales machine that fits your business. So take action now and let's get your sales process dialed in for 2026.
If you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor and help us reach more designers just like you by rating, reviewing, and subscribing wherever you're listening to this podcast. New episodes drop every Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe and get notified. And remember, please send us your anonymous voicemails anytime at fordesignerbusiness.com. We want to hear your questions about sales processes, automation, client intake, or any other burning questions you have about running your design business. We'll give you real coaching that just might be featured on a future episode.
Remember, consistency is everything. Your words need to match what's in writing. Your follow-up needs to happen whether you feel like it or not. And your sales process needs to run like a machine, not a last-minute scramble. So take action today. Build those email templates, create those informational documents, map out that wireframe. And if you need support, we are here to help you create a sales process that converts leads into paid clients without you having to reinvent the process every single time.
So stop winging it, start systematizing, and watch what happens when your sales process finally works for you instead of against you. Until next time, keep designing and keep dreaming.
Let's get it, rock stars.